Hello and welcome to The Australia Today. We are here for the special morning edition with our editor of Australia Today, Dr. Amit Sarwal, and our representative there in Brisbane, Sarah L. Gates. Sarah is at Indian Consulate in Brisbane, which is being kind of gheraoed, and a lot of people have kind of stopped the entry. Let's ask Sarah straight away what's going on there and why are these people there? Sarah.
Well, as you can see from behind me, there's plenty of Khalistan flags, and we've also got some of these Sikhs for Justice banners that we're so used to seeing now. There's a fellow doing a speech as we speak here, and they've been shouting Khalistan Zindabad slogans. So there's a heavy police presence around me, and it's perfectly safe right now for me to stand across the road because of the heavy police presence. So yeah, this is an unauthorised demonstration, but they've gone ahead, and there has been another media company here earlier today. So as you can see from behind me, there's plenty of yellow flags, and it looks like the consulate has been completely blocked, and I think the consulate has been closed due to this event.
This is just unfortunate in terms of in Australia, if our Indian consulate has to be closed because of these Khalistan supporters are doing an unauthorized protest. It's very unfortunate. People who want to have their passport, visa, or different issues, Indian Australians who want to enter the consulate, they won't be able to use those services. What do you think about that, Sarah?
Well, of course, it would be ideal if the consulate was open all of the time, and I think it was the right decision to close if they have closed because of this event. It is an unfortunate situation for the people surrounding the building. This is a residential area, and I was just speaking with one of the tenants who came down because she was concerned about the yelling, and what she said was this was not your ordinary peaceful Indian community. So the messages reached high and low through these apartment buildings from the Khalistan yelling, that they too came down to find out why all the ruckus.
Okay, let me show what Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has said just 2 days back.
Australia is a country that respects people's faith, that we don't tolerate the sort of extreme actions and attacks that we've seen on religious buildings, be they Hindu temples, mosques, synagogues or churches. This has no place in Australia, and we will take every action through our police and also our security agencies to make sure that anyone responsible for this faces the full force of the law. We're a tolerant multicultural nation, and there is no place in Australia for this action.
Amit, we are tolerant multicultural country, and these goons, I suppose, are taking advantage of the same fact that we are very tolerant. We let people express themselves, so they are trying to they are standing right in front of the doors of the Indian consulate there in Brisbane and not letting the business happen. A number of people might have taken a leave for a few hours to go to consulate and do their business. How do you see this?
So one thing is clear, that this is a very disruptive political ideology. Extremist would be an understatement to say it is actually an extremist ideology. Their whole idea is to disrupt the day-to-day lives of Indian Australians as far as they can. Now, PM Albanese has already said that, we don't tolerate such things in Australia. Australia is a multicultural community. And when asked by PM Modi, about temple vandalism, his reply was strong, but it was wishy-washy kind of thing, because he included mosques, synagogues, churches, and everything. The point was that PM Modi was raising that right now in your country, Hindu temples are being targeted by Khalistani goons. So your response as a prime minister should be, yes, we will take action. We will tell all the premiers that this ideology is not welcome. It's not a democratic. As we have been saying, even Sarah and others have said that um, democratic protests are allowed in Australia, but this is not a democratic protest. This is to break a country that is your partner. So on one hand, you are signing agreements for economic trade, you are signing your universities, you're asking your universities to set up campus, and on the other hand, you are kind of giving mileage because of your political bank and political leanings to certain ideologies.
Right. Sarah, what do you understand? You have been in touch with, Queensland authorities, police authorities as well, and as well the Home Affairs authorities. What are you getting from them? How are they going to handle the situation which is unfolding in Brisbane, in Queensland, in terms of how Khalistan supporters are targeting innocent Hindus and their religious organizations? What are your takes?
Well, I've just heard from behind me some slogans against Hindu supremacists. So if that was captured, that would be wonderful. You can hear that they're certainly vilifying the Hindu community in the background. And I think that the Australian authorities are across that. I think that they do understand. And I think they're doing everything that they can within the law, but they're actually required, they require us to report. So the message is basically to just keep reporting. And if you need any information about how to do so, you can always contact Hindu Human Rights, and I'm happy to forward that information. But it's about it reaching down to the rest of the Australian Hindu community. So there's 700,000 Hindus in Australia, and we need that information to travel down to them fast. So I have to thank you, the Australia Today, for being so wonderful. But yeah, they really do rely on reports. So if you see something, say something. You absolutely must, because they need to have as much evidence as they can to apply the full force of the law, as Albanese promised.
So right now, what I'm seeing is that Indian Consulate in Brisbane has been forced to shut down because of a handful number of these Khalistan supporters coming in and doing what they wanted, and nobody is there to check. I think Amit want to come in for this. Amit, what do you think?
Jitarth, if you remember the farm protest that happened around the Consul General's office in Melbourne during one of the events, I think it was the 15th August celebration or some Hindi Divas celebration, and these people, with the support of one political party, I won't name the political party because they have been misusing Australian laws to terrorize and harass people who speak against them. These people out the CGI in Melbourne, and they even pushed a CGI officer to the ground, and there were police present, and police did nothing. The Victorian police just stood silent there, and when asked, this person just said he was walking past and he just rubbed shoulders. But if you look at the earlier videos that are available,
he was the first to report it, Amit.
Yeah, and so if you look at the videos, it was clear that this man knowingly pushed the CGI person. And these people, as I've been saying, that these people are a very violent group. It's not that they have become violent because they thought the Khalistani ideology. They are born with that kind of sentiment, and that's why they have joined these ideological groups. Maybe it's money, maybe they think they will bring a change. But right now, I think the Australian authorities should look into two things. One is their visa status. If they are Australian citizens, then they are actually interfering in the daily matters, administrative matters of the Indian Consulate and Indian Consulate, Indian High Commission. These places, similarly, Australian Consulate in India and US Embassy in India represents the Australian or the American space. So right now, this is Indian space. So basically, they are interfering with the Indian administrative officers' daily work. Basically, they are putting their lives in danger. It's not just people who are coming there, it's the Indian administrative officers' lives in danger, because you do not know what these people are capable of. So mere presence of police is not enough. If it's an illegal protest, these protesters should have been banned from standing in this place right now.
And Sarah, this question is for you. How can illegal protesters enter a private premises which belongs to, in this case, Indian government?
Well, the police are responsible for maintaining law and order. So any time that this protest goes out of control, they have every means at their disposal here to crack down very hard, which is probably why there is so many police here on site, because they are concerned with keeping this under control. They can't, well, they can if they wanted to. They could issue a move on notice. I can't explain the decisions that they've made, but you can see behind me they've allowed it. They do allow unauthorised protests to take place in Brisbane under Queensland law. So it's not illegal to demonstrate without an approval. It just means that they can actually issue a move on notice and get them out of the area whenever they feel like they want to.
Sarah, let me tackle you there. Tell me, if it was Indian group or Hindu groups doing the same in front of Khalistan properties, would the police be in a same way dealing with them, or they'll be much more harder? Or you probably you can tell your experience how you have been talked to from the authorities.
Well, obviously, if they know about your demonstration and it's approved, then they can allow a lot more leeway. So if you do want to demonstrate, you're perfectly welcome to, and you need to get 5 days approval. And if you do that, then they'll go out of their way to facilitate your demonstration. And if you don't get approval, well, they can, if they so choose to, they can move you on. So I'm sure that once this gets to the point that they've had enough, the police will move them on, or they'll move on voluntarily. I don't know how much longer they're going to go for. So it may not be a very long protest. Let's see.
Amit, let me ask you this. Any private property, can anyone protesting for any good, bad, ugly reason can enter that private property, or I have right to tell them, get off my property, and ask police to support me or assist me to do so?
Now, Australia's trespassing laws are very, very strict. I especially know about Victorian laws, where while walking near our house, we don't even step on the lawn of someone else's house, because they can ask us to leave immediately. I'm talking about lawn, not stepping on the grass of someone else's house. I have seen many people mistakenly enter some building premises, and they're immediately asked to leave because they do not have the permission to even pass or right to be there. Now, this is a private property. It's an Indian Consulate, right? These people cannot step on the lawn. But when these people can claim the whole Federation Square to be their property instead of the one room that was allocated, so each passing day, Jitarth and Sarah, you will see.
Amit, my straight question is, why authorities are giving them so much passes? Why
I think that's what
on them?
I think that's what we have been warning, Sarah and others have been warning, that each passing day, the more leeway these people will get, they will get emboldened. They will get bolder and bolder. And then you will have a Canada-like situation where you will have Khalistani thugs on the street terrorizing people who do not believe in their ideology. They will get the guns. At some point they will get the guns. They have the weapons already. Brisbane, I think, if I'm not wrong, Sarah can correct me, Brisbane was the place where there was a Khalistani fight on the streets with swords and, the local things. It was reported in the media.
Hands were cut off in that fight. Sarah, can you tell us what has happened in that incident?
Well, there was a dispute between two factions within the temple, and they had a sword fight inside the temple, and someone had some serious head and neck injuries, and there was a near severance of a hand. So that was at the Brisbane Sikh Temple, which is, as far as I know, it's the same group that's organised this rally here today. There's one thing that I did want to mention is that Sikhs for Justice supporters in Brisbane have issued a threat to Prime Minister Albanese this morning, saying that because he's taking a firm approach on Khalistanis, that he's doing what India has done to them. So that's a bit of a passive-aggressive threat, and they've raised the matter of G20 again, and they seem to be resentful of Albanese's relationship with Prime Minister Modi.
Now, Sarah, do you know that US State Department has said that it recognizes Khalistan as a terror group? Canada also recognizes Babbar Khalsa as terror group. India recognizes Sikh for Justice as a terror group. So it's in when it comes to reciprocal agreements, Australia would at someday have to recognize this as a terror group. Otherwise, the bilateral relationship would be in a bit of a soup, because
I'm not, Amit, see, I'm not worried about any bilateral relationship. We are not concerned about what governments have to do. We are concerned about the community on ground need to be safe.
Yeah.
Australian Hindus have right to practice their religion in all the ways they please to. And these Khalistan supporters attacking their temples, attacking their other premises, attacking them as such as persons is unacceptable by any norm.
As I said, Jitarth, earlier, that doing a referendum is no problem. It's if you do it on your private property, if you are inviting people to do a referendum in a Brisbane Sikh Gurdwara or Miripiri Gurdwara, it's okay with us. But what they don't want is a referendum. They want a show of strength at this stage. Sikhs for Justice is very clear. They want to show their strength to the Australian Hindus and Punjabi communities, and those Sikhs who do not support the Khalistani ideology. And to get into that, they have a very media in their pocket. Sorry to say, but there are certain public broadcasters and some so-called independent journalists, white Australian journalists, who presents themselves to be experts on India, Canada, Pacific, Australia, and they can keep adding countries. They will add China. Whatever country is the in thing, the flavor of the day for Australia, they will add that country and become experts, while they write foolish articles full of mistakes. But surprisingly, these people are in the pockets of SFJ or so-called Khalistan activists, and I think Sarah is a bit terrified as people pass behind her.
There's people coming out to look at what's going on now, so. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you,
You
Sarah.
can hear them in the background.
I think your MI6 look doesn't work anymore. The shades and the cap.
I think I've ruined my disguise, guys. Yeah, but that's okay.
Sarah, can I ask you a question? What is Anastasia Palaszczuk doing? Like, didn't she learn anything from Dan Andrews' mistake with the Federation Square?
I think the Queensland approach is definitely a lot harder. They've reminded us time and time again that they won't have another Melbourne situation, and the organisation that's going on behind the scenes is really commendable. It's just that the systems aren't in place. It's going to take time to get those systems set up, and I think the communication networks from the community leadership all the way down to the community on the ground, it's going to take a little bit of time. But if we work hard, I think that we can, make sure this doesn't happen again and prevent this type of vilification, because there has to be consequences, and some of that has to come from the community. Filing human rights vilification complaints and so forth takes time. So I think that they do need to be filed, and I think we're going to see some repercussions down the line of people out in the street like this in the Australian public yelling about Hindu supremacists and making the whole community feel uncomfortable and unsafe. So it will have repercussions, and I think Queensland could be a turning point for this movement in Australia.
One more thing, Sarah, I want to ask. There are 30, 40 odd people standing there, and they are making life difficult for everyone. So how on earth that is acceptable to any civil society? Is there something which can be done, or we have to live with this menace which has been created in Melbourne before and now in Brisbane? How are you thinking? What's your take?
If you want them to crack down beyond the standard limits of the law, then they need to be a banned group, or they need to have limitations on their activities, and that's something that the federal police and the Queensland police are going to have to work on in preventing more of this community unrest. I'm just grateful that there's been no violence on the streets, and I really hope that people act responsibly on the 19th, and that the Sikhs have got their people under control, and that they're not able to leave the premises and run out onto the street, and that they're not carrying weapons. All of these issues have been raised by the community. The laws here are different. They can't walk around with swords, and they certainly can't unsheath swords. These are not lawful weapons to be carrying around in Queensland. So it's a totally different scenario. And hopefully the Australia Today will be there on the ground to make sure that all of those checks and balances are kept in line.
Amit, you wanted to add something, I suppose.
I wanted to add just one thing, that it doesn't take a genius to recognize the kind of danger these groups possess. India has been dealing for the past 75 years with various kind of terrorists, and it has been doing a great job. It has its ups and downs. It has gone through 26/11, but many people, 700 or 800,000 Indians who live in Australia, they call Australia their home. They are on student visas, temporary visas, permanent resident citizens. Most of them are here to build a peaceful life. I have studied South Asian, not just Indian diaspora. I've studied South Asian diaspora in Australia from 1880s to 2010. That was my PhD date, but I've been studying from 2010 to contemporary times as well, to the day we speak. I have not known of Indian extremists, getting roots in Australia. This is something that has calculatedly been done in the last 6 to 7 years. This has started by disconnecting the Sikh history from the Indian history. This started with trying to recruit broadcasters, soft media houses, easy targets, by recruiting advisors to political parties. This has been done in the lines with a toolkit which has been given, I have no doubt, from Pakistan's ISI, which has been circulating in Canada, then UK, and then USA. They have created human rights organization. Recently, I think someone wrote on Twitter to Sarah that don't come for langars, or if you eat langar, then you have no right to say. So basically, if you follow the Sikh Gurdwaras, they are basically, what they are trying to do is they're trying to create a disconnect between the Indian community. And when I say Indian community, I include everyone, Sikhs, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, as opposed to, they're trying to break away the Sikhs who do not want to support Khalistan. Their target is not Indian government at this stage. Their clear target is to threaten the Sikhs who do not support Khalistan. And we have seen that in Punjab as well. Look at the ground, when you talk about numbers, the numbers are very clear. As you said, these 40 people can take hostage a whole institution. Not just one institution, they have taken hostage two institutions. One is the Australian multiculturalism, and the other is the Indian administration working with the Australian government. It won't take a genius to figure out, if Punjabi Sikhs or Sikhs in India wanted Khalistan, they could have got it easily. Their numbers are far greater. But no one in their right mind wants Khalistan. No one wants to get separation from India. They have a very good example right next door called Pakistan, based on religious ideologies, right? So this ideology has nothing for creation of a new country. It's just a basic idea. The police officers are here to protect Sarah.
Are you okay, Sarah?
Yeah, he's just pointing to a sick to move on. I think
The police
the
officer's
Khalistan is
just into.
Ma'am, could you mention? Let's just go this way. Thank you. Thank you.
This is the generosity and hospitality of the Queensland Police, who are taking care of all of our safety. They just
Yeah.
made sure that a fellow didn't walk in anywhere near me.
Yeah.
So, you know, they are doing their job.
Sarah,
And
when
I
you
don't
see
think it's
these
going to be.
people, when you
Us?
see these people, the protesters, can you see if they, usually if you are a Queenslander or a Victorian, you can easily tell from the behavior, accent of the people, are they locals or have they come from abroad? Or
I can see
because you haven't
some
been.
people I recognise from abroad, but I can't go close enough to start listening to them because, I mean, just my presence here is, it's a challenge, and the police are obviously keeping an eye on it. So yeah, I
That's
can't
one
go in
thing
there and
that,
find out.
Okay, Sarah, tell me, what was this man doing and saying to you?
He was just walking behind me, and the policeman
he was
just
trying to say something
intercepted.
to you. We could see that he was trying to say something to you, and then the police officer stepped in. Maybe he was trying to ask you to leave, because
Well,
right
he's
now
just
what they
walked up
don't
the street
want.
there, so I don't know what he's doing, but I certainly would like to leave if you don't mind. I would like to
Yes.
finish this now because I need to get out of here and back into normal everyday life. Thank you.
Sarah,
Get me out of it. I got to go.
thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
and look after yourself and be safe from these
I will.
Khalistani. We don't want you there. Thank you so much for joining.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Amit, this is what it is. They are intimidating and trying to threaten people who are on ground reporting. This is not acceptable by any this is just, I'm so angry right now.
Now, Jitarth, the whole thing is about narrative. In an age of social media, if Sarah is reporting live and she's actually showing the illegal blockade, the gherav around the consulate, they don't want this narrative to be made public. They don't want the politicians, because Australian politician obviously not on the ground. He will just ask the police officers, what was happening. So
Amit,
they want to create.
I have a video. I just got a video. I suppose, let me show that video to you.
Now you can clearly see that they are standing inside the property of the consulate.
Yes.
Which you cannot do, because according to Australian laws, and even if you are at consulate, I cannot carry any illegal flags that are not authorized by the. Imagine, can these people do the same thing at a US embassy?
No, of course. If this has happened in India to any embassy or any consulate of Australia, America, UK, or for that matter, any country, they would have written pages and pages of editorial that their consulate officers or high commission officers are not safe there. Look at what is happening. They are blockading the doors of the Indian consulate, and they have to shut down just because of this menace happening there. And nobody from the authorities are pushing them away, make them away. This is unacceptable by all means, Amit.
I'm shocked, Jitarth. I'm shocked. And I can see some media person, maybe local media, Queensland media, they must have been invited by these people. So they do not invite. My experience with the Melbourne referendum, if you remember clearly, we were banned from covering one of their press conferences. As soon as they came to know that the Australia Today would come there, they got so scared that they made sure that our faces were splashed all over social media, so so that we are not anywhere near this place. If these people are present, then they must be friendly media, because and they have no idea what Khalistan is. That's what has been going on until Modi said that Australia should look into vandalism of Hindu temples. No one was covering anything. It was just the Australia Today and one piece by the Australian, which was a rehash of the Australia Today piece. Basically, they used our photographs and they used everything, because there was some kind of a silence from the public broadcasters. There was whitewashing or sweeping it under the carpet from one of the public broadcasters. He was, they were trying to give them some kind of PR mileage. But at this stage, this is an illegal protest with illegal flags, not recognized by the Indian authorities. As I said, Australian government should look into the visa status of most of the people. Indian government should also look into the visa status and the citizenship status of most of these people. These are not the kind of citizens that you want for a country. Australian citizenship laws are also very clear that you cannot be part of an extremist group.
Amit, let me show you this man. He's in the blue turban, tall man right there. I'll pause right in the middle. He has come from USA to
Yes.
do all this gimmick. This man is with the blue puggy facing towards us has come from overseas, and he is organizing. He was key person here in Melbourne, and now he has gone to Brisbane and to do whatever gimmick they are trying to do there. So they are just organizing these 10-15 youths from the Gurdwara or from any other place and giving them whatever incentive they are giving them and trying to mobilize this kind of ruckus in front of the Consulate of India. Is unacceptable, and Prime Minister Albanese has to walk the talk right now. Let me put that video one more time so that we understand what he has just said.
I gave him the assurance that Australia is a country that respects people's faith, that we don't tolerate the sort of extreme actions and attacks that we've seen on religious buildings, be they Hindu temples, mosques, synagogues or churches. This has no place in Australia, and we will take every action through our police and also our security agencies to make sure that anyone responsible for this faces the full force of the law. We're a tolerant, multicultural nation, and there is no place in Australia for this.
So you can grasp what it means, Amit. We'll come back on this story for more details later in the day, but this is happening right now. Indian Consulate in Brisbane is a staff and honorary consular is not going to work because these Khalistan supporters are blockading the place illegally. So no protest has been authorized by police or authorities. That's what we are facing. Last word from you, and then we'll have a wrap on this, Amit.
I think, one of the things that I've noticed so far is confusion regarding policy related to Khalistan movement in Australia. You cannot have two countries, for example, US State Department and Canada saying that we condemn terrorism in all its form, including Khalistan movement, which is not a political ideology, it's a violent protest group. And then Australia saying we respect people's faith while not protecting at the same time other people's faith. So you cannot give extra, or you cannot have two sets of rules for two groups. I think that is particularly clear. If you look at, there are a lot of old people here in this protest group. I am 100% sure that they are neither Australian citizens nor permanent residents. They are visiting parents of people. Maybe their visas have been sponsored by SFJ as well. They've been given some money, to come here on tourist visa, because at this stage, Australia is not looking into people who are. So if you look at the Federation Square Melbourne videos, there are people you can easily identify who do not look right. They look misfits in that whole scenario.
That's right. Anyways, Amit, I think we'll leave it to here and come back on more details. Do watch this space. Make Australia Today. Press that bell icon so that you get all the updates from Australia Today. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on YouTube and Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as on Instagram for all the details which you need to know about what is happening in multicultural Australia, and its people are affected by some of the issues. That's what we will say. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.